Thank you for being interested in the Great Give Back. The Great Give Back is a community service project that was started in Long Island in 2017 by the Suffolk Library System. And they had 52 libraries participate in the project on the first year, and it was very well received in their communities. So in 2018, the Nassau Library System decided to jump on board, and in that year, 107 libraries participated. So now it's 2019, the third year of the Great Give Back, and the Suffolk Library System wants all of New York State to get involved. So of course we think our system is up to the challenge because we're great. So I put the date right there on the first slide so you can't forget it. It's Saturday, October 19th, 2019. You've plenty of time to plan. Ingrain this date in your head. So just a little bit more about the mission of the Great Give Back. It's to provide a day of opportunities for the patrons of the public libraries of New York State to participate in meaningful, service-oriented experiences. So what does this mean? Basically, your library can participate by offering a program, event, or service that gives your patrons an opportunity to contribute to the community in some way. It's a way for the libraries to give back to their community, but also for the patrons to give back as well. So why should you do this? There are at least 3 reasons. So the first is it's a chance to spotlight what we already do. Many of our libraries offer these types of opportunities to our patrons already, and we'll see some examples of this later on the webinar. But it's a chance for us to show off these programs in a new way and to hopefully get new people interested in them. Or it can be a chance to come up with an entirely new event and use it to highlight the services that your library offers. So the point of this is that you shouldn't have to do a lot of work if you don't want to. There are definitely programs that your library is doing that you could spotlight, or services that you could spotlight. So it's a chance to call attention to stuff that we're already doing that people might not be aware of. Second, the Great Give Back gives you a chance to demonstrate how you are a crucial community hub. Libraries are facing a really big mounting perception problem. There was a report that was released in 2018 called From Awareness to Funding, and according to that report, only 30% of voters view their library as a community hub. And that's kind of a big deal because we push that a lot, like libraries are community centers. We're a place where people can come and meet each other and do things. And if only 30% of voters view their library as a community hub, like there's a problem there. So when people think of libraries, the immediate thought is books. This isn't necessarily bad, but libraries offer so much more than just books. And our libraries have yoga classes, community gardens, game nights, and so much more. You know, you work at them. So if people only think of libraries as a place that offers books and isn't connected with the rest of the community, isn't as relevant, they're less likely to understand the value of the library and less likely to vote for library budgets. So the report From Awareness to Funding stated that one of the next steps libraries should take should be to increase the recognition of libraries as community hubs. And I'm just going to read a statement from the report. So they say, as the need for traditional services continues to evolve, the spotlight can be shined on assets that are often overlooked. The library is a safe and welcoming place, a hub that connects people and gives them opportunities to learn together, and the positive impact of library staff engaged with the community around local priorities. For some libraries, the shift could include new programming that emphasizes community issues or cultural intersections, while in others, an assessment of community needs and evaluation of services could be incorporated. In either case, it's important to continually communicate the value of the library as a vital and non-commercial third space that is positioned to bring together diverse communities with equally diverse and enriching programs. So by holding a Great Give Back program or event, you can help to show people in your community, besides regular library users, that your library is a valuable resource that doesn't just check out books to people, you do so much more. And the third reason is it's a chance for collective marketing. We would really love all our libraries in the Mid-Hudson Library System to join the Great Give Back so we can make a huge impact. The more libraries that participate, the more time we can spend promoting the event, and the more people the event will reach. And this is a chance for our system to work together on a common project that makes all of us look really good and has the potential to make a huge positive impact, not just on your local library community, but on the Mid-Hudson Library System community as a whole, which is really cool because we don't really have that chance very often, and this is a new thing that we can experiment with and try, and hopefully it goes really well. So there are two main goals that you should focus on if your library wants to be part of this project. The first goal is to make a positive impact. You want to choose a project that will have a positive impact on your community and that people in your community will get excited about. So think about your community and what types of projects people would have a strong response to. Like if there's a local pet shelter, you might want to do something around that. If there's a part of your community that's really dirty and needs a cleanup, you could do something about that. It's really up to you to decide what would have the biggest positive impact on your community. And the second goal that you should focus on is to strengthen community relationships. You want people to feel more connected to the library, but you also want them to feel more connected to each other. When people work together on a project that has a positive impact on the world around them that they live in every day, they feel really good. So that experience can strengthen relationships between your community members, as well as give people an opportunity to create new relationships. The goal is for your community members to be empowered by their great give back experience and realize that they and others in the community can work together to make positive changes. And if they can make those relationships and those connections at your Great Give Back event, that's super important and really strengthens your community as a whole. So I'm going to pause here. Are there any questions so far, like about what the Great Give Back is or why it's important?
Are we going to go over some examples of good partners to develop?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, good.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's it for questions right now.
Okay. So now that we kind of understand like why this could be a really big deal for us and our system as a whole, I want to talk about how you can do this. So there are 3 different levels of programming that you could consider projects or events to work on. So level 1 is a passive program or a small program that you may already have going at your library. This can be as simple as setting out a box to collect donations for a local nonprofit, or having a station in the library where people can write birthday cards for seniors. If you have a teen volunteer group that meets once a month regularly to do different community service projects, you can use a Great Give Back to call attention to them and spotlight the great work that they're doing. But this level will be the least amount of work and time. However, it can still be very effective. Just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's not effective. Level 2 is a little bit bigger, and it's an event that is library-wide and is probably a couple hours long. It's going to take a little bit more planning time, a little bit more setup, and just generally require a little bit more work to put together. But you can use programs at this level as an opportunity to draw people into the library that might not visit that often. For example, you could have a volunteer festival where people can come into the library and work on different projects like making crafts for organizations or participating in a pet food drive. And level 3 is definitely the most complex and time-consuming type of project, but also the one that has the potential to reach the most people in your community. This is an event that may be held off-site or could involve outside organizations and people. An example of this kind of event would be a community cleanup, or you could have a volunteer fair where you invite different nonprofit organizations to come to the library. You could set up tables where they can talk to patrons about volunteer opportunities in the community. I believe the LaGrange Library actually did this a couple months ago. So it definitely works. This could be a really great way to make new connections in the community, not just between these other nonprofits and your patrons or your community members, but between those local nonprofits and your library. If you have somebody from the local food bank attend who's never been into the library before, you can seize the opportunity to tell them about Overdrive, or how they can check out gardening tools, or whatever cool thing that your library does that you think that they would really connect with. So once you decide what type of program that you want to work on for the Great Give Back, it's time to plan. Like once you realize that, yeah, this is something I want to do, you got to get serious about it. So first, you can take a look at what programs that you're already doing in your library and see if any of them already fit the mission of the Great Give Back. If they do, you may want to use that program and call more attention to it through the platform of the Great Give Back. If you decide you want to do something big and new, that's awesome too. It's really up to you the level of difficulty or time commitment or cost that you want to spend on this project. Your next step is to identify and connect with community partners if you need to. This can often take more time than anticipated, so it's a good idea to start sooner rather than later. That's why we're having this webinar in May and not in September. I found just through my own programming experience, trying to get a lot of people to agree on a date and time for anything can be challenging and may require multiple phone calls or emails or even in-person visits. So definitely start on this sooner if you're going to involve a community partner, because you're going to need the time. And the next step is to make it official. Confirm the date, time, place of event, and then get patrons excited. You want people to be super hyped about this and think about the library in a new way. So this brings us to probably the biggest challenge of the Great Give Back. Marketing is going to be essential to get the word out about your event, and you may need to think creatively about how to reach people who are not regular library users in your community. Since this is a community service event, you really want to advertise this to the community as a whole, not just your library patrons. I mean, we all have those regular patrons that come in once a week, once a month, whatever, and they generally have a pretty good idea about what programs are going on at our library because we have flyers up, we have sign-up sheets, they probably sign up for our e-newsletter if we have one. They're connected with the library. But we really want the Great Give Back project to be something that connects your community as a whole. Because remember, your patrons aren't just the people that walk through your door once a week or once a month. They're the people that contribute funds to your library. So if we're only advertising to the people that use us regularly, we're really missing out on a larger group of people that may not know what services we offer and may not realize that we have a program that suits their interests perfectly, or homework help or things like that. So you can post flyers around town, put ads in the local newspaper. If you're doing a big event, you may want to consider radio advertisements, share the event on social media, and you can also encourage your patrons who seem interested to talk about the event and invite their friends. Encourage word-of-mouth marketing. If you can get patrons to be kind of like your ambassadors for the program and get them super hyped about it and tell their friends and they tell their friends, then you reach a much larger audience than you would have if you just posted a flyer up in the library. Other challenges really depend on the size of your program. Larger programs are definitely going to have more logistical challenges, but you can really determine the size of your program and if you're willing to take those on. So again, the cost of your event is really up to you. If you have a passive program, your costs are going to be minimal. You may want to consider things like staff time involved with the organization and scheduling of the event, the setup, staff working on the day of the event, and so on. You should also consider the cost of materials if you're having a craft program or providing food to people. Another thing to consider is insurance costs. I know in my town, if we're having an event off-site, and like we wanted to have an event at one of our town parks, we have to have insurance for the event, so that can vary in price. I really want to stress, though, that this can be as low cost or as extravagant as you want. Your project doesn't need to be expensive to be effective, and you shouldn't feel pressured to create a huge new program or spend a ton of money if you don't want to, because you don't have to. As long as your library is involved in this project in some way, it's good. Like, it doesn't need to be flashy, it doesn't need to be a big deal unless you want it to be. So if you're like, I have way too much going on, I don't have time to plan for this kind of event, this seems way too hard, it can be as simple, like I said, as putting out a box to collect donations. So are there any questions right now?
So we did not have any questions, but if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat box.
Cool. So now that we've talked a little bit about why and how, I wanted to give you a little bit of inspiration and show you what programs our libraries are doing in the Mid-Hudson Library System that could be a good fit for this project, and also some of the programs that the Long Island libraries did that looked pretty successful. So the first thing that you could consider doing is hosting a knitting or crocheting project. You could hold a program where patrons who can knit and crochet make hats or blankets for people in need, like the homeless, sick children, veterans, etc. I went through all the libraries in our system's calendars and newsletters and stuff, and there are at least 4 libraries that have knitting or crocheting programs that specifically are focused on making things for charity. So those are the Claverack Library, the East Fishkill Library, the Kent Library, and the Olive Library. However, I know that many of our libraries have knitting or crocheting groups that meet in the library just like as a casual social event. For the Great Give Back, your group could all decide to knit hats for veterans or blankets for children. This would not take a lot of effort if you already have a knitting or crocheting program in place. You could just meet with them, say, hey, we're going to do this program, we're going to advertise the heck out of it. What do you guys all want to knit or crochet? And if you don't already have a knitting or crocheting program in place, you could still hold this program by inviting people from your community who have these skills to attend one at your library specifically for the Great Give Back. And like I said, this is in October. You have time to plan. You could start a knitting or crocheting group like in July and kind of build up the excitement before you do this project. So you could collect donations of items local nonprofits in your community need from your patrons. This event would be as simple as setting out a box for people to donate items and promoting it within your community. It doesn't really work if you just put out a box and just assume people are going to donate to it. You do have to promote it. Another thing that you could do is have a food for fines event where patrons' fines are waived if they donate items. I know a lot of our libraries have done this in the past. And this is a really great project because it has the combined effect of making people feel good that they donated items and that their fines are gone. This can also draw people back into the library that may not have been able to pay their overdue fees or feel embarrassed that they owe money. Fun fact, when I was about 18, this happened to me. I had way too much in library fines, and I was super embarrassed because they would tell me every time I went in, and I didn't have the money to really pay it off at the time. And they had a food for fines event, and I was able to donate some shampoo to our local food pantry that was collecting these items and donating them to people that needed them, and I got to use my library card again. So I was actually one of those patrons before I started working at the library that was like, I can't go in there, they're going to hate me, like I owe way too much money, and this gave me an opportunity to get back into the library. So examples that are going on right now, the Woodstock Library is having a pet food drive. May is National Pet Month, so they're accepting dog and cat food, cat litter, dog and cat treats, toys, cleaning supplies, and gift cards. And all the items that are donated are going to be given to the Saugerties Animal Shelter. And I really like on their flyer, they ask, please ask us for recommendations of pet-themed books and DVDs for you to borrow. Because they're not just promoting this pet food drive, they're promoting library materials. So a lot of our libraries also have programs like Project Do Something and Teens Who Care. These are programs where people, commonly teenagers, work on different small community projects each month. The Adrian's Library has a group that meets, and they recently planted flowers outside the library in the visitor circle. At the Pauling Library, they have their teen group is Project Do Something, and their teens have done things like put together care packages for the military, personnel abroad. They've made cards for hospitalized children, and they've colored pictures to give to veterans, to senior patients, and to people living in senior living establishments. At the Mahopac Library, their group made over 2,000 pink ribbons for the Women's Resource Center and made chocolate pops, candies, and cookies to be handed out at the Putnam County Valley Protective Services over the holidays. So if you already have a group like this at your library, you could easily spotlight their work as a great give back event, and maybe encourage other members of your community to get involved that may not know that your library does this. And if you wanted to start a group like this at your library, you could have the Great Give Back be the focus of a kickoff event for the program. So I might say this library's name wrong because they're from Long Island and I'm not that familiar with them, but the Mastix Morich's Shirley Library held a Great Give Back program where patrons could make cards for veterans. And this is a great example of a simple program that can have a really positive impact. There's not a lot of work in setting this up. all you really need to do is provide the materials and promote it so people know that it's going on at your library. And one of our libraries, the Kinderhook Library, held a program last November. They started November 6th and ran the program for the whole month, where patrons could make cards for veterans because of Veterans Day. And then they mailed the cards to Operation Gratitude, which ensured that the cards went to the veterans who would appreciate them. So this is a picture from the library in Long Island that had this program, and they had people do it. It was effective, and it was part of the Great Give Back and not that hard. So this is another simple project that you could do, is to create a Kindness Rock Garden and become part of the Kindness Rocks project. So you can hold a program where patrons come in and paint rocks, and that can be the start of your rock garden. You could do that on Saturday, October 19th. And the idea behind this is that people take a rock when they need some happiness, or they're feeling low, or they know somebody that would appreciate it, and then they can also leave new ones for others to take. And it's a really simple passive program. People can just take one as they're entering the library, drop them off as they're going to pick up their holds. And right now, the Poling Library, Pleasant Valley Library, and Putnam Valley Library are all registered as part of the Kindness Rocks project. The Kindness Rocks project has an official website where you can register your location if people are looking for places to drop off rocks. So I was the one who started this program at Pleasant Valley, and it was super easy. I bought some rocks from Michael's craft store because I did not have time to go dig them up out of the ground and wash them off. But they were really nice rocks, not very expensive, and I bought some paint, and I just let the patrons have at it. People found it really fun and relaxing. I heard comments that it was very therapeutic, and we've held the program a couple of times. We've also had a lot of patrons add their own rocks that they've made outside of our official programs. We have one patron in particular who gets really creative and makes the cutest ladybug and bee rocks, and those go very quickly. So this is a really simple program that's pretty fun, lets people get creative, and you can keep it going past the Great Give Back date. So another library in Long Island, the Rockville Center Public Library, made birthday kits for families in need. And these kits included things like balloons, cake mix, frosting, sprinkles, and they also had children make cards to include in the kits. So this is another really simple project that doesn't require a lot of effort, but could really make a big difference to a child in your community whose family might not have the ability to celebrate a birthday in the way that it's traditionally celebrated. So now we're getting into the more complex programs. So you could hold a cleanup day that takes place at a local park or a place in your community that needs some love. I just recently went to a cleanup day held by my town to scout out how they ran the event, just in case I wanted to hold a similar event on October 19th, and it was really great. We met at a local park, and the organizers had me sign a waiver that said I wouldn't sue them if I was hit by a car. And then I got garbage bags, I got gloves, I got like one of those little picker-upper things that you like squeeze it and it picks up garbage so you don't have to touch it. And then I drove to the road that I wanted to clean up. And I got to fill up 2 bags of garbage. I got some exercise. It was a beautiful day. And now when I drive home on that road every day, I feel a sense of pride. And I've also been guilty of pulling over when I see a can because I was like, I just cleaned that up. Don't make it messy again. So a community cleanup event can help your patrons take pride in where they live and help them feel responsible for keeping it garbage free. So your library could work with a town organization like Town Hall or the Highway Department, depending on where you're cleaning, if you're cleaning a local park or actually on the roads. And the Philmont Library recently held a cleanup day on May 18th, where they cleaned up the grounds outside the library and organized and cleaned out 2 storage areas inside the library. So your cleanup day doesn't necessarily need to be off-site. This is something that you could do if your library lawn collects litter, or if the inside of your library even needs some help. So there's a library in Long Island called the Sayville Library, and they're part of the Suffolk Library System, and they definitely win the award for the most events held during the Great Give Back. They had multiple events, I think 4 different things going on during the day, and that included a teen car wash. where teens volunteered to wash cars in front of the library. I thought this was really cool because it's not a typical event that you associate with a library. You don't really associate car washes and books and libraries together. So this was a great service that made people feel good because they got a free car wash. I mean, my car could definitely use that. And it gave teens a unique volunteer experience because instead of shelving books or helping out with a children's program, they got to wash cars. That could appeal to a whole different type of teens in your community. Not everybody likes shelving books or working with kids programs or things like that. But if you have a teen that's really into cars and is like, sure, I'll wash them for a little bit, it gives you the opportunity to reach out to different people in your community. And they look so happy. Spa day for your car today. I mean, like, that's great. So the Save the Library also held a pet adoption fair where community members were invited to the library to adopt an animal. And this was a great opportunity for the library to partner with a local animal shelter and find new homes for some really adorable animals. It also helped people associate the library with a happy memory where they get to bring home a new family member. And this is really important, actually. I got my cat through the library. It was not through an official library adoption fair, but a patron was hanging up a flyer for a free kitten, and I decided to take her. And the patron and I met at the library parking lot later that week, and I got the best cat in the universe. So when I think about when I got her, the library is the setting, and it's definitely a really positive memory. So if you can give your patrons that kind of experience, they won't just associate books with the library, they'll also associate with a positive, unique experience where they got to take home a new family member. And let's be honest, like, any excuse to have really cute animals in the library is a good excuse. So while researching community engagement ideas for this webinar, I found this really great program that began in 2012 in California, and it's called Book to Action. So librarians encourage their communities to read a book collectively, kind of like the Big Read program that we do here, and they created civic engagement opportunities based around the book. So for example, the San Diego Public Library read Last Child in the Woods, and they hosted 6 cleanup days, 3 guided hikes, and 6 nature story times. And they also formed a family nature club. I mean, obviously most of our libraries are not as large and don't have as many resources as San Diego Library and would probably find it challenging to run a program this size, but if you're inspired to do it, go for it. But I thought that the concept was really interesting and definitely adapts well to the idea of the Great Give Back. So another example, another library in California, the Ocean Park branch of the Santa Monica Library, read You Had Me at Wolf by Julia Clam, and they partnered with the Santa Monica Animal Rescue Education Program and Forte Animal Rescue and held an animal rescue group information fair. So you can connect your program with a book and hold a community reading event and then follow up with a relevant community service event. So I hope this has given you some ideas of people that you can reach out to in your community, whether it's local animal shelters, food banks, other organizations that would need your help. So finally, if you'd like to prove that your program made a positive impact and actually strengthened community relationships, there's a way to do that. So Project Outcome has a civic engagement survey that you can use to ask patrons these questions. You can ask them if, since they participated in the program, if they're more aware of some issues in their community, if they feel more confident about becoming involved in your community, if they intend on becoming more engaged in the community, if they're aware of more resources and services provided by the library, and what they like most about the program, and what the library could do better to assist with their involvement in the community. So the information that you collect using this survey can help you plan future events and prove that the event was a worthwhile use of time. And if you'd like to know more about how to evaluate your program with Project Outcome, I'm available to answer any questions that you have. I didn't really know anything about Project Outcome before I started this position in January, and I've become a firm believer in its effectiveness. I've used it to evaluate my programs at Pleasant Valley, and it's been super helpful. So it's a really good way of showing that your program or Great Give Back event actually did something and made a difference to your patrons. So the thing that I'd really like for you to take away from this webinar is that we have a chance to do something new and exciting in our system that we've never had the opportunity to do before. You don't need to do anything too wild and crazy for this project unless you want to. It's totally up to you. Your participation can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. But if we have all of our libraries participate in the Great Give Back, our library community can send a huge message to the people that live in our system. And we talk a lot about how our libraries are crucial community centers, but this project really gives us a wonderful chance to prove it. And together we can shift the perception of libraries and demonstrate that we are strong and vital community partners. So that's really what this project is about. It's, yes, giving our patrons a great opportunity to contribute to their community and give back, but it's also to show that we're really important and we're really strong and vital community centers. And if all of us in the Mid-Hudson Library System can team up and send this message together, it's going to have a much bigger impact than if only 2 or 3 libraries do it. So that's pretty much it. I'm open for questions.
All right, if anybody has any questions, please pop them in the chat box. There was so many cool programs that came up on there. That looked like so much fun, all those things. We did have one question about the birthday cards to seniors program. I think that might have been back in the second part.
Sure.
Do you know where those went exactly, Courtney? Is there a clearinghouse for that, or was that a local thing?
That was kind of like a program that I just thought of. There wasn't actually a basis off of that, but I figured it could be a really great program. I know if I was going to do it, I would team up with, there's a Lutheran Care Center in our community. I would reach out to them and make that connection and build that program about what they needed. So if you have like an assisted living facility, a nursing home, a senior center, I would definitely reach out to them and see how you can make that happen.
Okay. We just had a comment from Corinne. Anybody who has any questions or comments, please pop them in the chat box. So Corinne says, Boy and Girl Scout organizations have some great ideas to partner with too. And I think that's really true. I know I've seen some really cool programs that the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts have done for libraries or with libraries or in the community. And so if you can tap into those organizations or meet those folks, that's definitely a good thing.
That's a really good point. I know when Pleasant Valley had the fire, the Girl Scout community in Pleasant Valley was super awesome, and they held a fundraiser for us outside one of the local pizza places, and they made $700 like in one night. It was crazy. So definitely don't underestimate the Boy and Girl Scouts.
We have Holly is writing in. She says, the pet drive at Woodstock is my baby. She's
Ah,
been doing it for 4 years and she's tweaked it each year. And she's thought about expanding it out to the Ulster SPCA, but she's wondering if anyone has worked with wildlife rehab people because that could be a fun thing. I know one
oh,
time I found a squirrel at the library, a baby squirrel, and I called around for a long time until some woman came and just took it. I think she took care of it, but
I can say we've also had squirrels in libraries that I've worked at, and yeah, that's a super cool idea. Actually, I never thought of that, but yeah, if you could do something based around that, that would be awesome. And maybe make people aware of a wildlife rehab center in your community, because I didn't know about them until we had squirrels in our attic. So
okay. If anybody else has any questions, please put them in the chat box. Again, we are going to distribute this recorded webinar, or if you have any questions afterwards, you can certainly reach out to Courtney or I. I'm going to put the URL for the Great Give Back into the chat box in case anybody wanted more info. You can go there. But we'll probably share that out as part of sharing this recording as well.
yep, as a follow-up email, I'm going to send an email to all of you that participated that will include a link to the form to fill out if you would like to participate in the Great Give Back. We're asking all of our libraries to fill out this form. It's really simple. You could think of it as like an intent to apply. It's just your library name and like that you will be participating. But we're going to ask all of our libraries to fill that out by June 30th so we can get an idea of how many of them are actually interested and how many of you actually want to do it. So I'll be sending out an email with that information, and we will have resources on our website that will include that form, deadlines, and examples of great give back projects like you saw today.
Okay. And more from Liz Potter. She's telling us Friends of the Feathered and Furry Wildlife Center is a great local rehab in our area.
So maybe you could do something with them. That would be pretty cool. I love their name.
Yeah,
Sounds
that's
very.
we have somebody asking, they like the outreach to veterans. Do we have more information? And is Operation Gratitude a veteran organization?
I am not entirely sure. I can definitely look that up and find that out. But like I said, I know the Kinderhook Library did it. So I'll find that information out and send it out in the email. But if you have questions about that specific organization, Annalie over at Kinderhook might be the one to reach out to.
Cool.
But I can definitely get some more information about that.
All right, and Kristen sharing that the local American Legions might be a good source for veterans at a local level. I think that's a great idea too.
Yeah, definitely. I think once you start thinking about it, there are so many other organizations that we can partner with in our communities that it's like you kind of don't realize it until you start thinking about it, and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. So these are great ideas.
Okay, and Dawn's chipping in. I believe it's Operation Gratitude that collects survival bracelets for first responders.
Oh, so they do more than just cards for veterans. It seems pretty awesome.
Okay, and she says those survival bracelets are fun for teens and adults to make, but too hard for kids.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, that's another thing that you can think about when you plan your Great Give Back project is your audience. If you want to reach out to families, teens, kids, adults specifically, that's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, I know it's not always easy for me to find stuff that I can do with my 8-year-old daughter that I also want to do that isn't just entirely geared towards her, which is fine sometimes. But things that we can do together and I can enjoy are always a lot of fun for us. I think Operation Gratitude, I think they're also the ones who take, it's this not exactly timed up to the 19th, but after Halloween, I think they'll take excess kids' candy and ship it out to the troops who need it more than my children and other kids in the community who have a surplus of candy after the 31st of October.
So that could be a great follow-up program.
And Holly has another suggestion at Woodstock. They have an event for people to paint a picket fence on their garden fence, like Huck Finn, I guess, and they thought it could be messy and fun.
That's the best kind of program. Yeah, I know a lot of our libraries have community gardens, and I was thinking that'd be such a great opportunity to have a program around that and to pull people in from your community that might not know that your library has a community garden. I love that idea, though. That's really great. Anything with paint is awesome.
Corinne suggests treasure hunts are fun.
Oh, yeah, that could be if you could do like a community service related treasure hunt. That would be incredible.
Hmm.
And that could be a thing that would be fun for like a whole family type of thing, not just for kids.
Okay. If anybody else has any other questions and comments, we can put them in the chat box. Otherwise, I don't think we have anything else, right, Courtney?
Nope, that's it. Like I said, we'll be sending out a follow-up email with more information and the form that you can fill out if you're interested. But I really love the brainstorm that's happening in the chat. I think it's a good indication that we're going to do awesome things.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we hear from you. Hopefully this is something that we can all take advantage of.
Thank you, everyone.